What I really don't get is why so many of you out there want to give blowjobs to flying spaghetti monsters. I mean, I just don't get it. You want to shamelessly give head to flying spaghetti monsters. You can't seem to just be satisfied with the empty truth. You have to gratify an obsessive need to glorify and adulate a concept that will help you feel better about yourself and inflate your ego. But why? Maybe you think shameless veneration demonstrates humility and gratitude. Well, it doesn't. It demonstrates desperateness and sniveling subservience. It shows low self-esteem, and it reveals a deep-seated unconscious desire for divine quid pro quo. That's why you pray, isn't it? Please, God, gimme this. Please, God, gimme that. Gimme, now. Please. I'll give you a blowjob. And I know what you're gonna say. I don't do that. That's insulting. I only pray and worship the one true God, not a flying spaghetti monster. And to characterize my communion with God as a blowjob is vulgar and inaccurate. Is it now? Well, actually, it seems to be stunningly accurate to me. And I know what some of you are thinking. Oh man, Sage, are you gonna attack religion again? And I say, sure. Why not? When in doubt, flay theism. It's good filler material, and it just feels so fucking good. Plus, you can always barbecue all the severed strips of cleaved meat. And you don't have to feel bad because theism deserves it. Being such a manipulator, preying on the obtuse and credulous masses. And what's funny is, a lot of theists spit on atheism and would never dare to dream of glorifying or worshipping such a bankrupt ideology. And yet, ironically, the very same supreme deity that they claim to idolize and long to perform fellatio on turns out to be the biggest atheist to ever come down the pike. That's right. God is an atheist. Not agnostic, not ignostic, but atheist. The original atheist. If God is God, and who else could God be, then he is the one and only true God, and there is no other. Therefore, God is an atheist by default, as God naturally lacks a belief in a supreme deity, because, after all, God is the supreme deity. If you are the supreme deity, then not only is there no other God before you, but there is nothing else existent outside of yourself. Nothing exists outside of yourself but your own products and byproducts. Sure, you can dress them up in different costumes and pretend they are not you all you want, but fact is, it's masturbation with amnesia. It's all puppets and props. Yay! Truth be told, it's a bit of a harrowing truth. absolute solitude. Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow for a deity that has to contrive an esophagus to swallow it. And even just swallowing ain't an easy function to contrive. Sound a bit lonely or depressing? Well, this is the raw reality of a supreme deity. Now, supreme relative to what? Now that's a good question. I guess to the farts God emits as he lays around for all eternity, pondering the questions of his supremeness relative to whatness. Perhaps supreme to a divine belch that brings a whole universe into existence. Wow. Just think of it. The Big Belch Theory. Now, the only question becomes, will the belch forever expand in all directions? Or will the belch retract and collapse into itself? These are the types of questions God considers in his all-pervading, ever-present boredom. Yes, God is most certainly bored. As what is there left to do when one can do absolutely anything? But it's even worse than that. No limits means no boundaries. No boundaries means no position. No position means no distinctions. No distinctions means no existence. Who would have thought that omnipotence would lead to oblivion? It's a real shocker. So, the only way for God to come to terms with his indivisibility is to willfully fracture and restrict himself. Enter mankind, the puny weakling who desperately longs for more and more power and control. In his profound ignorance, man gets lost in distinctions, swimming endlessly through a sea of complex inventory. In his thirst for empowerment, man creates a god in his own image, as it's a lot more satisfying idea than the empty truth of the oblivion. So, rather than growing some balls and emulating God through pragmatic atheism, man instead develops garbage beliefs and then forms garbage belief systems, aka religion, whereby he can now officially worship himself via a god by proxy. Isn't that amazing? Or is it more of a reason for depression? It's a diversion from the truth, so despite its facade appeal, it's empty, which actually reflects the real nature of the underlying supreme deity. That is, apparently, so incredibly supreme, he is forced to cripple himself to even have a semblance of a sense of self. This is something man should embrace unconditionally, as it is, and not give in to the temptation to try to mythologize it. Man, just like God, has to come to terms with his own true, indivisible, underlying nature. Man is a limited chunk of God, estranged and committed into a form with a name, and then cast into a contrived setting. So for man to then turn around and earnestly worship an imagined externally existing God is a perverse delusion. It's the equivalent to God performing fellatio on himself. And how does that sound to you? Actually, I shouldn't have asked, as I know many of you would probably never even leave the house if you could accomplish it. And with that in mind, you can now have a better idea of God's whole situation. So, knowing all this, you don't have to feel at all hesitant to become an atheist. It's not disrespectful, it's not arrogant, and it's not intellectually dishonest. It's actually an emulation of God himself. If God has to be an atheist, then man should be one too. Can there be any better way to connect with your authentic self? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah,